Designability members, past and present. So I'm going to hand over to Ali, and we'll just do it as a sort of a Q&A session.
Hello everybody, and it's I wore pink so that you can find me. It's a bit bright, isn't it? It's really lovely to be here and lovely to talk to so many of you as well, and I'm really looking forward to having a little chat with some of the people who've just made all this possible. 50 years is incredible. I've been reporting now for 31 years, and I really remember my first time I came along to do something on By Me, as it was known then, so it's great. So let's, without further ado, talk to the lovely Richard Mawditt, who is, I'm going to put my glasses on, Richard, because 31 years, yeah, here we are together. OBE, I have to say as well, and Professor, yeah, in fact I'm bowing now. Recognised for his contribution to higher education management over many years, and when you joined the University of Bath, you were the youngest finance director at a UK university. Well, you know, good reporter. And went on to become the university's head of administration, and then an academic role, the director of the International Centre for Higher Education Management before retirement. It's quite an illustrious career, if I may say so.
That's my mother would love to hear you now.
Yeah. But let's get on with designability. How did it originally start? Because originally it was by me, wasn't it? The Bath Institute of Medical Engineering. When did it all begin?
When did it all begin? That's a Neil Diamond song.
I can serenade you if you like.
Where did it begin? Well, as we heard from Mark, 50 years ago. Really, very much the initiative and the passion of two men, Mr. Bevan Horseman, wife Deirdre here today, and here we are, come to you in a moment, and Mr. Ken Lloyd-Williams. Bevan, one of the prominent industrialists in the city of Bath here, Horseman Gear Company and one or two other companies which are very prominent, and Ken Lloyd-Williams, who was a consultant surgeon in the Royal United Hospital. It goes really to an occasion when Deirdre and Bevan were expecting their first child in the Royal United Hospital, and Deirdre was having a rather difficult time, and the consultant anaesthetist and obstetrician, I get that right, felt that she needed some special attention, and the treatment she was having was through a rather strange instrument, which, as I reminded by Deirdre, at the time looked rather like two cocoa tins and a few pennies soldered together, which actually pumped some air into the lady about to deliver a child.
So very basic.
Very basic stuff. Bevan was horrified, and from that point in time said, look, I must help you guys to get some decent engineering into the hospital. And the consultants responded very positively, and one, Ken Lloyd-Williams, led, if you like, a group of 5 or 6 who happened to tie up with Bevan and his engineering colleagues in and around Bath. And it happened at the right time, just to be a fledgling university just up the road. And we went to a number of meetings and a few, should we say, hospitality occasions, hospitable occasions. Not only was the child Nicola born very successfully and thriving today, of course, but the Bath Institute of Medical Engineering was born. And really the initiative was very much down to Bevan and to Ken Lloyd-Williams, who were the founding fathers.
So they saw that there was a need, that there was a kind of a way of trying to get certainly the medical profession and engineers together to kind of get solutions to things.
Absolutely right, and I'm not going to read lots of notes, but I will just...
You're not allowed, because we're on sort of a 5-minute
I'm
break.
going to say that the Institute...
And in fact, I've told him that I kick him on the ankle if he goes on too long.
Kick me on the ankle again. The Institute was born, as Mark said earlier, on 15th of July, and I must tell you the objectives of the Institute, because they're the very same objectives that Designability have taken on to this very day. The Institute designs and tests prototypes and arranges clinical trials of new equipment for hospital and special aids for the sick and disabled people. When these are satisfactorily completed, it arranges for manufacture and a worldwide marketing to be undertaken. That is as it was 50 years ago and as it is today. I just wanted to make that point. And matters have evolved. The early days were difficult. Getting sponsorship and getting donations, a bit tricky. Can I tell you the story about that? Because one of the earlier directors was appointed very much for fundraising. And he actually persuaded us at that time that we should have professional fundraisers. Wrong. The fundraisers actually promoted something in Kensington Palace with the Duke and Duchess, which one now, never mind. And there was on the Sunday night appeal, Reach Good Cause, and money flowed in. It also flowed out because those fundraisers cost us more than actually raising the revenue itself. But there was something good came out of that, because the Institute then said, well, we'll do it ourselves. And there was a young lady who was the secretary, and is the secretary, who is actually here today, who took on the fundraising role. And she has been a genius at it. Ruth Hooper, wherever you are.
Where are you, Ruth? Can we stand up and applaud you? Because you've done amazing work.
I can tell you there are lots of goods and the greats, and I can tell you all the names of the presidents and the directors. But that young lady has done more than anyone else, in my view. And there are lots of good people, lots of technicians. And Brian Outy was not here today. He was very much in the fore to begin with. And those are the people who are the core, like the staff today, of this great institute, which has now changed its name to Designability, I know, and changed its spots a little bit. Doing great work. But I thought I feel very strongly that she should have a lot of recognition for what's been achieved.
So lots of early pioneers for the Institute.
Yeah, well, there were clinicians and there were university people, and there was lots of names. But one of the good strokes of good fortune, and I recognised this recently, when 75 years ago, this last month, it was the Dam Busters raid. But 50 years ago, they were celebrating 25 years, and one Barnes Wallace was the brainchild of Deirdre again, thinking, why don't we try to get our first president with a big name? And Barnes Wallace was approached, and he readily accepted. And for the initial years of running the Institute, he gave it guidance and his support, and that profile helped very much build by me, as we call it then. So successors, presidents, have all been good and great. Really, lots of names. But there's been some terrific people. Lord Wolfson, for example, came, and our first Vice-Chancellor did a little bit of manoeuvring with him, and £250,000 appeared one day, which we were able to use for the second phase of building. So lots of good people. And I must say also, because you've got me going now, one of my very favourites, so many people here, was Sir Roger Bannister. Oh, did he bring a presence to the Institute? And to his credit, he put a lot of time here when he could have been doing other things. A good medical man, a man of Bath, helped us a lot in the university sport, of course.
Of course. And just very briefly, what are some of the early achievements from those days?
Well, there were lots of instruments which were devised. There was a blood warmer, for example, which is beyond my technical ability to describe that. But one thing which was a world first for the Institute, and that is what was called the rest rise chair. Now we all know these efforts we see in the shops, these very comfortable chairs which you press a button on the side and up it comes. Do you know that was devised at the Institute 50 years ago? One of the very first things which was, we tried to patent it, but you couldn't patent a chair. But you could patent all the little devices, the spring clip, for example, which is in chairs around the globe now, and that's all from here, 50 years ago.
Genius, absolutely.
Just a couple of examples. But as Mark said earlier, the number of products and the people that have been satisfied worldwide, fabulous.
Well, listen, it's lovely to talk to you. I know there's loads to say, but get off, yeah. In the nicest possible way. Big round of applause, please, for Richard. Thank you. And I didn't have to resort to kicking the leg. Will Roger make the kick the leg test? This is what I do when I do lives on television. Sometimes when you have a sort of pre-arranged thing and you've got in my ear going, you've got 10 seconds to go, stop talking, and he's just launched into another answer. So you have to go like this. Yes, now, very nice to see you. Professor Roger Orpwood, you were the lead engineer with Binary, weren't you, from 1976, and then director from 2004 to 2009, weren't you?
Yes, that seems a long time ago now, but yes, I spent the bulk of my career really working with the Institute and helping it.
What attracted you to this kind of work with the charity?
Well, I guess like a lot of people who work for the charity, I was really keen to use the sort of background and training and skills that I developed as an engineer to try and make a difference to people's lives. I mean, it sounds a bit of a cliche, but I think actually if you look at most people who work in this area, that's what they want to do, that's what motivates them, is trying to make that sort of change. And the charity has made a difference, you know, to many, many people's lives. I mean, looking back over the 50 years, over 300 separate projects have been run, and the vast bulk of those have been really successful and have had a big impact on people. So a very attractive place to work.
It must be so satisfying to know that you've helped to provide a solution to what can be such a difficult problem.
Yes, I mean, my job as so many of the employees at the Institute at the moment was as an engineer. I did design work, I came up with prototypes, looked at solutions to various problems. But the thing that gave the whole process so much enjoyment was the interaction with the patients you're working with and the users and clients who are trying to devise that for you, of all ages, you know, from very young children to older adults. Very satisfying area to work in because of that interaction with the clients.
We were talking earlier and you were saying how much you love that interaction and how much it really does help shape the product.
It does. It doesn't just help you, it's essential to developing the product. You know, if you're looking at designing something that's got this close relationship with the human body, there's all sorts of factors that come into play, including psychological ones, and the only way you can really address them is to engage with the person you're designing for, the user. You can't just go away and sit in front of a computer and come up with something you expect it to work. It won't, you can almost guarantee it. The user has to be almost a member of the design team, you know. You can bounce ideas off them, look at the way you think your solution might evolve. They can test out prototypes for you and comment on how things are going. So they're key actually to the success of this sort of work. Them and the clinical people we work with, you know, a lot of clinical professionals like occupational therapists who again have the expertise and the understanding to be able to guide the way a product is developing. And that collaboration and teamwork I think is absolutely essential to Vowles' work, and has been a hallmark of its activities over the years.
It's very clear that that partnership works. What are some of the things that you've designed that you're most proud of? Not just you personally, but the whole institute, or should I say Designability?
Yes, you've got to be careful. Oh, there's so many. It's really difficult to pick one out. Towards the last 10 years at my stay at the institute, we did a lot of work for people with dementia, and that was a satisfying project actually, because people with dementia are almost kind of written off. You know, it's such an awful condition to have, and people almost assume that life just goes downhill from there on. And it certainly becomes difficult because of the memory problems and the cognitive problems. But there are roles for engineering in helping people, even with difficult problems like cognitive ones. We spend a lot of time working with people with dementia, trying to get a handle on the things that are causing them problems, and using that information to evolve things that help. And we came up with some wonderful stuff actually, some really good devices. One of the issues in particular for our sort of work is, at the end of the day, what is it you're trying to do? You're trying to improve people's quality of life. That's the key thing at the end of the day. And for people with dementia, you know, it's not easy to know what that means to them. And we spend a lot of time with some researchers from Liverpool University in Sheffield, interviewing people with dementia, trying to tease out from them, what is it that makes your life, what's good in your life, what are the things that are really important to you? And we ended up with a wish list of 11 items, some of which you would have assumed anyway, like reminiscence, being able to maintain relationships with family and that sort of thing. But one that came out was music. And that seemed really strange, but people with dementia often have a kind of enhanced emotional response, and music becomes very important to them. But trying to access it through radios and TVs is really tricky, you know, pressing knobs and turning button, you don't know what to do. So people tend to withdraw from even trying. So we came up with a music player, one that was given to His Royal Highness earlier on, which had an intuitive control. All you did was lift the lid and music came on. all you did was press a big button on the top and it changed the CD effectively. It was really effective, and that had a big impact on people. You know, it really did have an impact on them because of what we found out about what's important to them, and because we worked with them to try and find out what they found to be intuitive in terms of control.
What was staggering was that, I mean, I know now you design the products and then you work in partnership with people to make these things happen. But in the early days, and I think still some as well, you were making the products and sending them out and getting the clients, weren't you?
Yeah, oh yes.
I mean, everything.
Oh, completely, yes. So because some of this equipment is quite specialised, the markets aren't enormous. It's quite difficult to get a manufacturer to take them on board. So at one point we set up a unit that just made small batches of things, tried to fund all the production development and the marketing and all that sort of work from charitable sources. So we just had to sell them at cost. That's all we had to do. And it was a really useful way of getting batches of, it might only be 2 or 3 sometimes, or it might be 50, but small numbers to that specialised group of people who would really benefit from it. And that was great fun.
One of those things that, you know, maybe started with small numbers, but you've sold loads of now, is the bottom wiper. I mean, and that's just such a basic thing, isn't it? But how many have you sold now?
Oh, it's well over 100,000, enormous numbers. I think people are buying them as stocking fillers, actually, not us. It's one of those things. It was just a simple device we made for people who had limited arm movement, so they couldn't reach to keep themselves clean. Right, it caught on. It's obviously something people don't talk about a lot, and yet it has a big impact on their lives. It was my biggest success in all my career. It's a bottom wiper.
Just really briefly, I know that your products now go around the world, don't they?
They do, all over the place. And actually, since I left, the charity's been really successful in promoting stuff, particularly the Wizzy Bug you're going to hear about in a moment, to countries all over the world, Australia, Canada, all over the place. All the problems are the same, obviously, in these countries as they are over here. And it's really great that the Institute's got that reach out and contacting people who can distribute these items and maintain them and keep them going. So yeah, really important part of the Institute's work.
Big round of applause for Roger. It's fantastic what you've done. Thank you very much indeed.